out of there getting everything he wants, and so might Vladimir Putin. Granted, it may not be as visible as the North Korea meeting where the world saw an image of them shaking hands, but I wonder if the larger risk is that both men could walk into the meeting, get what they wanted, and walk out thinking they're both winners.
I'm sorry. This is what the president's director of national intelligence said on Friday about Russia. Take a listen.
We know you run the shop. We know you're making the decisions. Oh, that's some hacker down somewhere where we don't know. We know what you do.
Presentation, he said a blinking red light, essentially comparing it to right before 9/11.
Right.
So the president's going to sit down and try to befriend somebody who Director Coates says is currently attacking the United States.
Well, and framing it like this, the way that the president has. One, Putin's not going to admit it, so why should I even ask him? And two, it happened under Obama's watch. Now, both of those things are true, but that's not the point. The point is not to say, well, did you do it? And then have him say, of course not. We don't do anything. We don't spy. It's to say, we know you did it. Look at how detailed we don't just know you do it. We know the names of the people where you're doing it.
We know they've been doing it. I was reminded last night at dinner by two veterans of the IC. 40 years ago anniversary, the Russians executed Georgy Markov in London with a ricin-tipped umbrella. They are the Russians. They have been the Russians since Stalin. They are the same people year in and year out, and Romney was right in 2012. I just think that the American media is trying to infuse Donald Trump with a sort of willful blindness that he doesn't demonstrate.
Whoa. Why are you... Wait. What the heck are you talking about with media? This is not media. This is John McCain. This is actual. This is Mark Warner. These are serious officials on both sides. Now, this is not the media.
This is such a
cop out.
No. The commentary around this summit tries to make Trump appear to be unprepared for this one. He's got Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, Jim Mattis, the best national security team assembled in decades.
It's not the media that's saying this.
They haven't prepared.
It's our own reporting. It's people inside the White House saying it. Hugh.
The only preparation has been John Bolton going over last week and pursuing a policy that is completely the opposite of what John Bolton has espoused his entire career.
Plus, this is the point, is that it's one thing to do the spying and all the other things that Russia has been doing. But again, when it is turning Americans against point is for Americans to not trust not just the political parties and the political institutions, but not to trust the FBI and any other institution. That, to me, is more worrisome.
And can we point out one piece of this report that you and I were talking about before the show? It also notes that among the things the Russians did was mining for Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin gets complicated, but basically what that does is you have a computer system that does incredibly complicated computations. And by completing them, the system allows you to generate more Bitcoin, which means the Russians generated money to make this happen. They literally minted money to hack our election system. Now, the president saying, well, I don't know if I'm going to ask for extradition, is stunning. If someone broke into the Bureau of Engraving and Printing and stole American dollars to commit a crime against the United States, it would be an immediate call for extradition. They are literally minting money.
There's no surprise in this. I'm just saying the Russians have been the Russians, are the Russians, will be the Russians, and everybody knows it, and we should not downplay the fact that Trump knows it too.
And the president is not categorical in saying that he will ask the Russians to extradite these men. He won't even say it. That alone is a gigantic concern that he won't stand up and say, my government is accusing you of committing a crime against our democracy. You have to act, or I will.
Well, but I think Hugh's point is an important one. We should learn from the past. President Trump should learn from what happened with President Obama, what happened with President Bush, and he's not. And so advocates of Trump's foreign policy saying it's good that he's going and shaking things up in NATO and going against the grain, well, then why do we support what he's doing with Russia when it's failed in the past?
I got to make that the last point. I promise you guys get to come back here. But when we come back, I want to talk to some elected Republicans about this.